We've all been burned by games that have demanded so much of us and given so little back. Unending hours grinding, countless missions, unattainable goals, and competitions led by credit cards are just some of the things that we have put up with on our years of gaming. But what if I could tell you that it didn't have to be that way? Fateless's upcoming hero collector, Godforge, is going to break that mold, and I'll tell you why. Now, when it comes to talking about Fateless and their development of Godforge, it's important to note exactly where these men and women came from. We may not like this, and frankly, you may have quit once or even 100 times, but a lot of these people got their start as content creators in Raid Shadow Legends. Simon himself has even spent years developing a business on the brand of Hell Hades and covering the game. And so as they build their own business, design their own game, it only makes sense that it would be a further iteration upon the game and mechanics that they grew to know so well over the last years. But that also means that there's going to be improvements. There's going to be pain points that they are going to be avoiding. And so when we talk about things that we are never again going to have to deal with in this gacha game and the hero collector that is Godforge, we can easily look through the lens of Raid Shadow Legends for what is going to go well, things that we'll never have to see again, and things to look forward to. And so as we look at the Bastion of Raid, there's a lot of things here. And as we've seen pictures of kind of like the home screen, the landing page on Godforge, there's also a lot of different elements. And that's okay. And I think that there's going to be room. I think there's going to be, new buildings, new areas of the game to grow and see as the game develops. And it very well may become to where we have things like an altar in Raid, like we have the Altar of Souls, but we know we're not going to see something like that at game launch. And frankly, if awakenings are truly going to be present in the game at the beginning, that already presents a possible issue of potential early power creep in the game that they're really going to have to harness in on and ensure that they don't let run away from them. Because one of the primary ways that a gacha game can die is not being able to keep up with the whales that are throwing their money at the game, increasing their power, and capping out. Because once a player caps out on power, they get bored. And so the developers have to continue to develop and grow and provide other ways in which players can become more powerful, and that is where power creep really begins to ensue. But that's just one problem. It's really present on my mind right now, and that's why I bring it up. I hope and frankly just pray that the people at Godforge are really thinking about that power creep and what that looks like. I have a lot of trust in Saf or Paul to kind of understand the mechanics and the numbers and what's going on there, and you'll hear me say that a couple times here in this video, but hopefully they have a good handle on that now. But back to the kind of things that we are never going to have to see inside of Godforge. Let's talk about outdated or forgotten content. First and foremost, just at the market itself. We have an update here on this market and how it's being displayed and that everything is in one page, and that's good and fine. But these tabs and some of the things that are being displayed and can be purchased here with different resources and materials are just long since forgotten. The bazaar for 3v3 Arena is just a joke. The clan shop is, lacking with increasing resources at the top end, areas that a lot of clans can't even reach. The token trader, the size of the pictures are still wrong. So there's all kinds of things here that Plarium developed, put into the game, and then completely forgot about or just didn't take the time in their next development cycle to fix. And that is something, frankly, that I really hope to see inside of Fateless and their development of Godforge, is that when they have these development cycles, meaning when they work on a piece of content for a set amount of time, and then they go on to their next stage of content, that they do build in time with their developers to bug fix and improve upon and do like 1.5 iterations of their content drops. But we'll see. Fateless, what are you going to do? Now, this is just the market. There's obviously all other kinds of pieces of content. We are very painfully aware That Cursed City is still lacking. It feels almost half-baked. Siege has seen plenty of updates and still kind of struggles to really be a great scene of content. Really, when it comes to kind of these games modes and everything that we're dealing with, we know that the Doom Tower is finished content for Raid, but it's one of the most, it's one of, like, I know myself and other players, we loved the Doom Tower. It was a great piece of content. It was developed well. And then they just said, we're done. We're not going to be having any more. It's a finished piece. And so while we do still get to, go in the tower and complete it every single month, we still want more. And I think Fateless knows that. We see this when they're talking about their alpha and that they're going to have this tower mechanic. Their tower is going to be the primary content drop come alpha. They recognize that this level, this type of content is well received by their gamers. And so they're going to be really honing and diving in here. And they've said that for those who reach the final level, there's going to be an unlimited boss to fight. Now, I have no preconceived notions. I believe that how they're designing the alpha is nothing like how the actual game is going to play out once we see launch, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of unending boss at the end of the tower every single time once we get there. Now, will we see iterations of a tower like we do in Raid Shadow Legends? We'll have to see as Fateless develops their game. But I have a feeling it's going to be more of a singular tower that we get to progress through and then fight a boss at the end. We know this is going to be the case for alpha. We'll have to see if that's actually the case for launch. Now, there's other pieces of content that are long forgotten. I already mentioned this, but just frankly, 3v3 or Tag Team Arena, it's my least favorite area of the entire game. I think that's true also for a lot of other players, and it's just... I can't even put it into words. It is a mess. In Silver 4, I can barely compete with various teams that are on this level. Now, you may be looking at this and judging me for that, but the state of my account and where it's at really struggles to hit to Gold 1. And so therefore, Ramontu is completely out of my reach for the time being. If you look at this and then you look at Live Arena, now, frankly, the seasons are nice, but Season 2 has dropped and there's no real change between Season 1 and Season 2, which I know a lot of people are frustrated about. Classic Arena has its ups and downs. I particularly like it because I just want to grind for the resources. But again, these are just pieces of content that have gone by the wayside and not been further developed. And I think when it comes to Godforge, they're going to be focusing more on ensuring that their vision and ideas for this game and the pieces of content are continuing to be improved upon. Just simply because the men and women who even have complained and commented and urged Plarium to improve upon these pieces of content are the people who are leading the pack there at Fateless. Hey, thanks for being here. If you've made it to this point, that means you've really committed some of your time, and I really appreciate that. Do me a favor, help out, and drop a like and subscribe down below. Let's get back to the video. Another area of the game that we're not going to be seeing in Godforge isn't necessarily content, but actually the heroes that we're going to see introduced into the roster that we can play inside the game. Now, over the years of Raid Shadow Legends, we've had an unending number of heroes introduced to the game, and power creep, as mentioned before, has really become a thing. And it's not even necessarily the gear or the artifacts, accessories, the ascension, or anything like that, but simply the mechanics that are introduced. We can just look first and foremost at Armand's, right? Like 2 years ago, the anniversary champion, this guy completely broke the mold on what it looked like to be a turn meter control champion. Not only did he create a stun, an AoE stun, and drop all turn meter, but they also then put sheep into his kit. This character would have never existed earlier in the game. When you look at some of the OG characters and how the heroes were developed in the champions, those types of mechanics just didn't exist. We've seen updates of some champions, but even still, they have nothing like what Armand's kit has. But even further back, talk about Terrace, Marishka. Even further back, one of the OGs, Trunda, the most game-breaking PvE champion in the entire game. All of these meta-breaking champions completely alter the game that require the developers of Plarium to develop other content or other champions or other mechanics to counter them. We have entire sets of gear that could potentially save us from being stun locked by our mons. That isn't going to exist inside of Godforge. There's going to be more testing. There's going to be more balancing. And while they've come out and said they want the game to be fun, meaning that they want everything to feel powerful, that doesn't mean, though, that everything that we face is going to be a wet noodle either. And so there's going to be a lot more play testing. There's going to be a lot more of balancing on the front end. And potentially, content creators like me won't be sitting here showing you a new character that's coming out and saying, what were they thinking? Frankly, I hope that that's never a thumbnail that I have to put out there. But we'll see. But it's not just mechanics of heroes that have grown into power creep over the last several years in Raid. There's also the infamous polymorph that completely changed the state of PvP in the game, and still to this day hasn't completely been altered. Polymorph and other things like that introduced high levels of RNG into a game that had their mechanics clearly and easily defined. If you look at that and look at other things, such as some of the artifacts that we see, especially around like the Wand of Submission, there is so much random chance inside of the arena now. You know, Big Papa Drop talks about this a lot. He mentions how he doesn't even know what's happening in his fights anymore. And that's a problem. Not being able to understand what's going on, not being able to really plan ahead and lock in something that's going to really counter a meta or counter a particular champion, that isn't fun. And so by introducing these types of content, gear, and everything like that, that is going to introduce more RNG into the game, it's just not a good plan. And so Godforge and their developers aren't going to be doing this because they know exactly what polymorph has done to the game. They know exactly what Armand's being able to sheep someone or putting a Wand of Submission on your main, lead, what it can do to the game. And so as they develop the game, we're not going to be seeing that. But every game, every hero collector is about collecting heroes. And so there's going to be a lot of things around how we gain epics and legendary champions and the powerhouses that we want for our account. But now this still is a hero collector. And so there's going to be a lot of things around collecting those heroes and powering up our account that we may or may not like. Something I think we can guarantee we won't see is going to be progressive summon events. At this point, I don't even remember what the original increased chance was. Maybe it was 10, maybe it was 15, but the summoning pool and the amount of legendary champions in this roster has just reached a ridiculous level. It reached that level a year or two ago, maybe even before, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow. And so we look at, what a 25 times chance looks like after already receiving 2 other legendaries. It's just kind of a joke. We play this game because we want to have fun. And when we are not able to fill out our roster, when we are not able to, get one of the champions that we really want to play with. Now, I'm not saying that we should have every single champion because we've played those games. Those games don't work. But there should be more ways, more effective means to actually gain the champions we want to gain. Especially when it comes to whales and everything like that, they're going to want to say, well, if I'm going to give you my money, I need something in return. I don't want you to just take from me, but I need some kind of reward. And I think free-to-play players can also really feel that as well. I myself have gotten lucky with some pulls and some champions, but at the end of the day, there's all kinds of different chances or heroes that I've pulled for that I just haven't gotten. And so hopefully, when it comes to Godforge and how we gain champions and the opportunity for us to pull and summon or whatever word we're going to put to it, that there's going to be something better than a progressive summon event. There's going to be something better than just having the portal lit up with some color all the time. And I think we're really going to be able to see something that is creative and new in that space. But this game isn't just about the individual, right? We have clans, we have PvP content, and for the longest time, those two things never crossed each other until Hydra Clash and things like that. The combination of clan-based goals paired with competitive competitions that destroys some of the content and what it was intended for all along. Hydra Clash turned Hydra into a Trunda showcase. Which accounts have the best Trunda teams that can just smack through everything, that we can go to the lowest normal mode, gain more points because we can do billions of damage on normal and still come out in first. That breaks the concept of what Hydra was supposed to be. And so when we look at the kind of content that's going to be inside of Godforge, I think there's going to be a clear delineation between PvE and PvP content. I think there's certainly going to be clan competitions. There's going to be content that pits clans against each other, or whatever the word is that they're calling clans. I know it's not clans, but I don't think we're going to see this level of pushing these types of content together and completely changing what a previous game mode was all meant to be. So as I begin to wrap this video up, the last thing I want to mention is just talking about the outrageous expectations of individual achievement in this game. Plarium has come out and said that they want people to be able to play how they want to play, that they want to be able to play and participate in the events and the tournaments that they choose to participate in. But let's be honest, while that might be a great notion, this level, this amount of competitions, tournaments, events is just outrageous. It may give players an option to participate in what they want to do, but at the end of the day, it also puts an insane amount of fear into the player, a fear of missing out, FOMO. And we're just not going to see this inside of Godforge. The unending amount of events is something that is unattainable for any player, and being able to manage their resources can't happen. And so it all comes down to picking and choosing and what you want to do, and being able to say, you know what, I'm going to let go. I'm okay with not doing this. But it's not even that, right? It's also some of the high expectations of the content itself. And dungeon divers, we know that we're not going to see events like this of these levels of requirement in Godforge, because they have said time and time again, content creators that work in Fateless have complained about the inflation of these events and how much is required of them to achieve the goals we need to achieve, and that it just doesn't add anything to the account. We have to go in and play Dragon, Spider, Fire Knight, or even Ice Golem, places and pieces of content that are outdated, providing us resources that we just sell for more silver. And so things like dungeon divers, we're not going to see inside of Godforge because it doesn't bring anything to the actual player's experience. So pair this with the just total number of events and tournaments that are run inside of Raid, it creates this FOMO. It creates this culture of always having to be doing something and never being able to progress your own account. And if you want to do that, well, then you need to pay more money, because you're going to run out of energy, you're going to run out of resources, and you're not going to be able to do everything you need to do. And so it all becomes a balance. Now, I think that when it comes to Godforge, there's going to be a much greater balance when it comes to what we want to do versus what we feel like we need to do. And so these are the primary pain points inside of Raid Shadow Legends that I believe we will never again have to face when it comes to playing Godforge. The men and women who have devoted themselves to developing this game and are passionate about this project have been a voice for a community frustrated at a developer for years. And so when it comes to creating their own systems, creating their own game, there's a lot of these issues that we simply will never see when it comes to playing Godforge. And if we do, I can guarantee you there's going to be some kind of creative solution there. Now, these were my things that really have bothered me and have bothered the community, but there's something I have missed. So what is it about Raid that frustrates you the most? Leave a comment down below. Or better yet, if you did quit, what is it that led you to that decision when you did? Guys, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. Your time is the most precious gift you can give me, and so thank you, truly. Drop a like, subscribe down below so I can know what is doing well and what I can continue to grow on my channel as I develop more content. Thank you so much, and until next time, have a good one.